Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Danganronpa. Let's continue. So, we pretty much are being told by Byakuya that Genocide Jack is one of the students or in the school with us and has caused this murder. If that is the case, then we are kind of in some bad shape because then we've got a serial killer who seems to be very notorious and accomplished with us. So I imagine either I'm supposed to click on this one. So I guess we're supposed to just talk to Byakuya again. Byakuya, about that Genocide Jack case file. Can you let me see it?
That's fine.
Well, you didn't beg, but I guess it's okay this time. Feel free to look at it in here, but you can't take it with you. So, murder cases of Genocide Jack. This is weird for this to be localized into English. It might as well just say be in Japanese. That would save them some animation. Like, it doesn't really change much, frankly, for it to be in English there. Weird that the files would be so big and yet kind of thin. Like, I know there is kind of a standard that is slightly different than a standard A4 sheet paper that you normally would print on in the West. There's also legal size paper, but there's like a European standard of size paper that's close to A4. But what we're looking at here looks more like a photo book than a folder that would hold papers or files that you were filling out. Particularly, maybe in Japanese, it might make more sense to have more paper. But I don't know. If you look at like manga is super short and super thick, so it would be really ridiculous for files to be like twice as deep and an eighth as thick. But yeah, I guess I was really picking at nits at this point. I flipped through it with tense, nervous fingers. Suddenly, my hand stopped. I reached a page where photos from the scene of each crime had all been collected. Okay. The name of Genocide Jack's victims ran on for several pages. Okay, so let's see what we can see here. Now, I do see a reason clearly why this would want to be translated. Otherwise, they would just have to add so many lines of dialogue for the English translation to translate it. So starting at the top left, we have a guy named Ken Harada, who is an office worker in 32. We're looking for method of operations and details. Murder took place in the parking lot of the victim's apartment. Victim suffered multiple stab wounds across his body, believed to have been inflicted with the same scissors that were later used to attach the victim to the wall. So, Chihiro instead was hit in the head by a blunt object, not a sharp object like scissors, and she was tied by her wrists in a hanging position, not stabbed through the wall. That is certainly, though, also crossing the realm of reality. You're not going to have any pair of scissors unless you custom make them that are strong enough that you could literally stab them through the wrist of a human and then into like a concrete wall, which is what that looks like. Maybe if it was a wooden wall, there might be something believable there, but you're talking a massive amount of force there. Scissors in general, designed to be sharp, which anything designed to be sharp means it is usually pretty brittle in many places and will fold over or chip or break far more often than stay together. That's why when you make like iron railroad spikes and things like that, they aren't particularly designed to be sharp. They are thick and they are made of iron and they are big. Let's see. Next to the right, we have another guy. Victim suffered multiple stab wounds across his body, believed to have been inflicted with the same scissors. So it's the exact same thing in the red text. We can see the word bloodlust mentioned and written. We'll kind of skip over all this. We can also make an assumption here that it seems like all the pictures are of someone who is male. I'm not seeing any female victims so far. And then there is some differences here too, is that there's at least 3 stab wounds. If we assume each page is for one victim, and these are just different photos of the same person, which I think is the case, you can see that there are multiple scissors here. So somebody, Genocide Jack, apparently has like a whole production line of these fancy looking scissors that he stabs people with. This is a very Japanese thing too, because guns don't exist in Japan effectively. So killing someone as a serial killer with a scissor does make a lot of sense, and it's not as mundane or boring as, say, killing somebody with kitchen knives, like the first chapter, which would have been repetitive. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a third or even fourth stabbing that occurs in this game just because of that. But yeah, 2 stabbings, or 2 talks of stabbings, at least in the 2 chapters, is a little redundant. Alright, the name of Genocide Jack's victims ran for several pages. Ken Harada 32, Tetsuhiro Hondo, Honda 17. There seems to be very inconsistent ages here. How you would end up dealing with a 32-year-old and a 17-year-old in your day-to-day life in Japan is unlikely. It seems more like they simply are just targeting random men. Soji Gaku 13, Kano Isai 14, Takeshi Yoshida. Yeah. It would be weird if it was like Tetsuhiro Honda and Kano Ishii both went to the same high school, and then each of the other people were like teachers or workers for that high school. And if there was some kind of connection like that, they probably would have figured out who Genocide Jack is. But they have already said earlier that Genocide Jack kind of just appears and disappears and goes to different places. It would be probably helpful somewhat if they mentioned that like one of these murders took place far north of where Tokyo is, and one of them took like far south of where Tokyo is, and far east and far west. That way they can make it very, very clear to even somebody in the West who may not know where a certain prefecture or region is. You could easily localize that to say, this murder took place in the north region of Japan, this murder took place in the south region of Japan. Although sometimes when I bring up these complaints, the game has been good enough to actually answer those complaints just a few sentences down the line. Let's see. Komasana Taro Takafumi Gono Uchida Naoshi Takeshi Masamune Yuto Yunajima. There was no into it. Again, localization here. Perhaps it would have been better in this case. It's almost never better in Japanese games to add Mr. and Mrs. To names, because that's just more typing. But in this one case, if they had simply added a Mr. in front of each of these names, then anyone who is not familiar with Japanese names won't run into the possibility here that one of these 4 or 5 names that are listed are might be considered female, because I could see somebody thinking that Takafumi is a more feminine sounding name, or Yuto might be considered. If you just weren't really familiar with Japanese names, I could see room for mistakes there. But one thing became perfectly clear as I read. All of the killer's countless victims were killed and suspended in exactly the same way. And we can see how they spell the word bloodlust, and it looks exactly the same way we've seen it in the pictures. Now, if it isn't actually Genocide Jack that did this murder in Hope's Peak, they clearly saw these pictures to copy it, or they got really, really lucky. And that the scene of every murder was the word bloodlust was left in the victim's own blood. Now take a look at the next page and you'll find another interesting tidbit. Next page. We're back to this animation. Is there something we're supposed to be seeing here, or do they just want to animate Makoto a little bit more so you can remember what the main character looks like? A game like this might actually proceed a little bit better if every chapter you actually jumped into the body of a different character, and that way by chapter 2, if you'd played as Makoto as chapter 1, then as chapter 2 you could have played as, say, Byakuya, and then you could have actually accused Makoto, and it might actually be that Makoto was the killer. That way you don't eliminate any single person from suspicion, because right now, since we're playing just as Makoto, as you would in a normal story with just one protagonist, we know Makoto is not going to be the killer in any of these murders. Profiling results. All the crimes took place on either weekdays or at night, or during holidays, either day or night, which does imply that Genocide Jack is doing something during the day on weekdays, which, I mean, school or work, that's pretty much everybody. Most common time for the killings to take place on holidays was in the afternoon. Based on these facts, it could be suggested that the suspect may be a student. Well, I mean, it may be, but also it could very well be an adult. But I guess if one of the students is Genocide Jack, then it's a student, clearly. Evidence suggests that the suspect lingered at the scene, but when they did leave, they were in a panic. Because an eyewitness has never come forward, it's unlikely there was an external reason for this. This confusing behavior suggests that the suspect may potentially suffer from dissociative identity disorder, DID, or formerly known as split personality disorder, although I don't know if that was ever used as a term medically.
So in other words,
the key point here is that the culprit may well have a split personality. Okay, well then that does open up the door to any character, even almost Makoto, of being the killer and not knowing it. A split personality, like the thing you see on TV. So I'm part of another totally unbelievable story. But this one is way more unbelievable than anything else up until now. Even the game is calling out how ridiculous this is, considering everything that's happened already. Or maybe it really isn't. I don't know. I feel like my mind has gone numb. So we have now the Genocide Jack case file to our truth bullets.
let's go.
I kind of forgot we were already in the investigation part. We kind of jumped into it sort of fast by just trying to hang out with Chihiro as much as possible, which we won't do, obviously, since she's dead, but we also won't use that strategy anymore. I'm just going to try and hang out with multiple people going forward. Alright, we should get going soon. Where are we going? Anywhere but here. We finished our business here, haven't we? Ah, wait, Byakuya. As usual, Byakuya turned to the left without another word. I hurried out of the library to catch up. Well, this is where we part ways. I have some things I need to take care of before the class trial. Just all of a sudden like that?
I don't have time.
Come on, enough of your annoying misapprehensions. Did you really think we'd be together the whole time? Take responsibility for yourself and do something useful. Move the investigation forward on your own.
Bye.
Well, goodbye. Alright, and just like that, he was gone. Just as quickly as he'd asked me to join him, he cut me off. In the end, I felt like I was just some plaything getting tossed around. At the same time, I'd uncovered some really important clues thanks to him. It almost feels like all he's trying to do is have an alibi or ally with him in the class trial. There is a lot of evidence here that points to Byakuya being the killer. Just like Jack, he is the one that killed Chihiro, and that murderous fiend is one of us. But who is it? I have to find out no matter what it takes. And to do that, there's somewhere I have to go to investigate one more time. I have to go back to the crime scene, the girls' locker room. I should check out the boys' locker room too, and the others might come up with some other information I find useful while I'm at it. I need to find everything I can. Alright, so let's look at the map. Okay, well, as it stands, there's a effect here that will trigger when we go here, and here, and here, so we've been told to go there. There's also an effect all the way here, and on the first floor there's 2 people to talk to. We're starting to get down to the point where there kind of isn't that many people left. Like, I feel like Toko would be here, but she's not. Alright, well. So let's just go, let's fast travel here because we have 2 people in the hallway. And we'll want to just deal with that first. And then we'll fast travel somewhere else. Maybe we should have confessed our embarrassing secrets after all. Damn, I'm so sorry, Chihiro. It's all because I wasn't strong enough. I have like 9 things, so I could get 1 token if I wanted to. 1 present with the gacha machine. Where was Byakuya? I think he was in this room. Alright. Oh, hey Makoto, what's up? I haven't been up to anything myself, that's for sure. Definitely haven't looked inside the mailbox. And like clicking on the mailbox, like won't do me any good. Right, so storyline wise, I think they just want us to go here, so we'll just go here. And I guess they want me to talk to Hifumi, so we'll talk to Hifumi. Ding ding ding, Hifumi has discovered evidence revealing the identity of the culprit.
I feel as if
Another stat increase for me. Evidence, what did you find? I actually just looked at a screenshot of Persona Strikers, and one of the things that, in a comparison to this, having not played any of the Persona games, is the fact that they have a little head in the left-hand corner of the person talking, always, so that picture, the bust image of that character changes when the person talking changes. Danganronpa would be way better if it had that system, and most visual novels do have something like that. They're trying to do it mostly by just who you're looking at, but half the time you're looking at somebody like Hifumi, but right now Makoto, the main character, is talking, so it would make perfect sense for Makoto's face to be in the lower left-hand corner to differentiate that. Also, I'd say Persona 4 Strikers heads-up display takes up considerably less space and says more in the top left, and it doesn't have a background music in the top right. It also has fast forwards and skip buttons and very basic things that you would expect to see in visual novels, even when this game originally came out. And the one thing that it probably doesn't have a major focus on is the 2D, the 3D animation that's happening here. But they could have easily had this just be a completely flat 2D visual novel, and it wouldn't have stood out very much, but visually speaking, but it would have probably saved them a lot of effort. I suspect they probably had 2 or 3 programmers learning something brand new and spending a lot of time to figure out how to make the game be textures on top of 3D models. But moving forward, evidence, what did you find? I can't reveal that just yet, but I guarantee you what I found will steal the killer's breath from his lungs. Are you sure about that? Oh yeah, Miss Ludenberg has said that she'd witnessed something worthwhile. Really, what did she see? She refused to tell me. It's like when a girl bullies a boy she likes, right? Okay, so where's Celeste now? The warehouse by the dorms. So she was there, but at the same time not there. What's it gonna be? So all he's telling me to do is go to the warehouse. Now what are we looking for in the boys' locker room? That's a question. Alright, well, let's just investigate everything. We've got a camera. We're looking for nice coins. We have a different poster now. Let's go ahead and click on this, since there's probably nothing. So, this poster. It looks like a group of characters from Yu-Gi-Oh! But I suppose it's supposed to be a boy band. Called Tornado. There was a pinup poster there before. This poster. It's the popular boy band called Tornado. It's funny, they zoomed in and they barely made the picture that much bigger. Somehow it doesn't quite seem to fit the boys' locker room. And then we've got a carpet with a stain on it. Or a strange stain on the carpet. What is it? Nice boys' locker room carpet has been added to the truth section. So it seems to me like some things have been moved around in the boys' room and put in the girls' room instead. Cool. It's like, it kind of stinks that you can't just open this door and go into the girls' room from the other side, because they probably should have said how that works. Otherwise, it does kind of feel like anybody of any gender could have just snuck in through this door. Right. This door leads out to the pool. They're not even gonna let us go there. So we wanted to do more investigations on images. So here's the pinup model. Bloodstained poster. The blood is the most noteworthy part, but the big-breasted swimsuit model is pretty noticeable too. A girl's locker room doesn't seem like the kind of place you'd find something like this. Oh, but wait, that reminds me. The poster in the other locker room is... Oh, that's right. There's definitely something strange about this. In the boys' locker room, there's a poster of a popular boy band. Of course, we had already seen this, but I imagine some players may have not seen this. In the girls' locker, there's a poster of a big-breasted swimsuit model. Arguably, you're stretching the argument of a swimsuit model at this point when they have her in such a pose that you can't even really see the swimsuit that well. Could the posters have been switched? But if they were, why? What reason would anyone have? The blood, obviously. I would call this a pinup girl, or pinup girl's probably about the best term you could use instead of a swimsuit model, but I guess maybe that's a nice euphemism. Maybe I should talk to someone who knows a little more about the locker rooms. Nice. So that's been added. We'll talk to people later. Here we can see there's a stain on the carpet. It's a blood stain on the carpet. It could have only been caused by Chihiro's murder. We have the big blood stain on the dumbbell. Below the head, murder weapon. And we'll click on this just cause. Then we have the blood stain and bloodlust written on the wall. At every crime scene, the word bloodlust was written in the victim's own blood. And then let's investigate Chihiro. I can feel the life draining out of my own body. It's a dead body. Chihiro's dead body. Alright. So is there anything else to click on? No, so let's talk to Mondo. Dude had a real complex about being weak. You heard Chihiro's talk about it, right? All we need to do is get stronger. Yeah, I do remember more. Alright, so we already talked to him about that. So I guess we'll talk to Sakura.
Of course.
I used to spend it nearly every day since it opened up. Sometimes Hina and I use it together. Okay then, let me ask you. Do you think the poster in the boys and girls locker rooms could have been switched?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I can't really say. I never really paid any attention to the posters. I see.
However,
But there is something that has been bothering me about the locker room. You see, I drink a lot of protein coffee every time I finish exercising. We have protein coffee in the warehouse. It's not the highest quality, but I don't have a lot of other options. I mix protein powder with coffee and down a glass of it after exercising. Anyways, the other day, I spilled some of it on the carpet in the girls' locker room, and it left a stain. Wow, it's kind of weird that she wouldn't have tried harder to clean up a stain. Japanese people tend to try insanely hard to keep things clean. A stain. But I don't see any stain on the carpet now.
of course.
Exactly, I noticed it earlier. The stain has disappeared. I can only assume someone came along and cleaned it up. But still, isn't it unusually clean? As if there was never a stain here to begin with? Disappearing stain has been added. Alright. Hey Kyoko, have you made any progress on your investigation? Generally speaking,
However,
but I have to get going. I have something unrelated to take care of. Something besides the investigation? What is it?
well,
Nothing you need to worry about. Just concentrate on the murder. But
so then,
before I go, let me give you one piece of advice. You should examine Chihiro's body one more time, thoroughly. Also, her handbook is missing. You might want to determine its whereabouts.
goodbye.
That's it. I'll be praying for your success. Kyoko seems to want you to succeed, but isn't very helpful. With that, Kyoko turned and left the girls' locker room. Guess I'll take another look at the body then. And Chihiro's handbook is missing? That's definitely worth worrying about. So. Okay. Do we have anything in like the lockers you can investigate? Because that's where you would assume her handbook is. No. Kyoko said I should examine the body one more time. I know she said thoroughly, but I do have my limits. Well, I better give it a shot anyways. Let's see. Yeah, we really weren't looking or zooming in. Chihiro's hands are bound with what looks like some kind of rope. Honestly, I don't think you could have a body, even a very light womanly body, held up just by a few wraps around the palm of a hand. You would have wanted, if you're going to tie somebody up, to have the rope go under the arms a little bit, but maybe it's just holding her up by the neck too. The ropes are used to prop her up in some kind of crucifix position, huh? This rope is a plug. Well, we've seen an extension cord before, and there's so few little other items in the entire game. We kind of know where the plug came from. Now it came from the library, and this puts more suspicion definitely on Byakuya. Although, in all fairness, the store is so packed full of items that does kind of give you the feeling that you might be able to find an extension cord inside the school store very easily, amongst all the other things. So, wait, so then this isn't a rope at all. But the more I think about it, the more that's not the only thing that concerns me. Chihiro's fatal injury was a blow to the head, which means someone struck her in the head in order to kill her. That's right. There's the issue of her being suspended and the fatal blow. At first I didn't see any reason to think too much about either of them, but seeing them again after looking through Genocide Jack file, something's not quite right. What does this all mean? Status of the dead body's been added to your handbook? Well, the one thing most likely to tie all these mysteries together is the true nature of the rope that was used to suspend Chihiro. And to figure that out, there's a certain place I need to revisit and look over again. Plus, it might help to look at the Genocide Jack case file one more time. Alright. How many truth bullets are we at now? 13? There's like 13 already, and honestly, I think there's a lot more. I want to go to the warehouse and the dining room before I end up going back to the library and the archive, which is where they want us to go to after that point. So I'm gonna just go to the dining hall. Which apparently I can't do yet. So can we now fast travel to the first floor? Yes, we can. Yeah, I'm being kind of sporadic about this, but yeah, that's how I want to play, so that's how I'm gonna play. There is a danger, certainly, if there's a new game plus to this, that the game will get kind of linear and boring because of it. Let's talk to Aoi. Hey, Ohina, how's Toko doing? Same as before, she won't come out. She just keeps on mumbling something about Genocide Jack. So I just left her there. You left her? My head was all swimming and I was getting pretty hungry.
Yeah.
Oh, but don't worry. I'm going to head back as soon as I'm done eating. Toko's not exactly pleasant, but I'm still worried about her. Speaking of which, what are you eating? A donut, of course. Of course. There's two things I'm sure God created, outer space and donuts. So does that mean if I hang out with her, I should give her donuts and outer space items? Maybe. She has almost like a gopher appearance in the face she's making. It's like, it's kind of like a puppy dog face. And maybe that's just because I drew it weird, or maybe I'm just seeing things. Really? I bet Chihiro would have liked to eat more donuts. Maybe that was that was her one big regret. I should have tried to spend more time with her. Well, as someone who'd spent all the possible time with her, it still didn't feel like it paid off all the way. Come to think of it, who did she spend time with?
Well...
Yeah, she was a little bit strange. She didn't really hang out with the other girls much. She hung out with me a lot. It was like she was trying to keep her distance from us. Actually, Sakura said something similar. She said that even though you and her invited Chihiro to exercise with you, she always refused.
Yeah, totally.
Yep, it's true. And it wasn't just us either. It was like she stayed away from all the girls. Was she just shy? I don't know, she talked to the boys all the time. Isn't it kind of weird to be shy around your own sex, but totally fine with the opposite sex? Oh wait, maybe. Maybe she was used to guys spoiling her. The law says you can't judge a book by its cover, right? You think so? I never saw her as that kind of girl. So now we have Aoi's account. Let's just leave the area. And like every time we have an interaction though, there is that danger, certainly, that somebody might be somewhere where I would want to bump into him and talk to him before triggering a more important encounter. But I think we've run out of people. Toko is somewhere and we have no idea. Let's talk to Celeste. It's kind of nothing new to investigate. Celeste, what are you doing here? The warehouse is amazing. It has absolutely everything one might need to live a full life. I disagree, but let's just assume that that is the truth. From food to clothes to towels, there's an endless supply to choose from. I see that, but have you found anything related to the case?
Most unfortunate.
I knew you were going to ask me that. I thought talking about the warehouse itself might misdirect you, but I see that it was pointless. Then did you find something? Very well, I tell you and only you.
Actually,
Last night I saw her. I saw her here. Chihiro was in the warehouse. What? Really?
indeed.
This was right before nighttime.
Hmm? What are you
And
doing
so we
out
get
this late?
Custom animation again, and we have a voice acting, and with the different animation, Celeste looks very different. Is her hair even blue normally? I'm not sure if it's that shade of blue. We can see Chihiro here, and she's got a duffel bag with a blue sleeve sticking out of the edge. And they're showing a different angle of the warehouse. But not much difference.
Oh, I was just...
Hmm.
Are you planning to go exercise, perhaps?
What? How did you know?
Because I can see a blue track jacket sticking out of that duffel bag you're carrying.
Track jacket, so...
Oh, you're right. Thanks. Well, I'd better get going. I'm kind of in a hurry.
Yeah, the fact that they didn't establish any kind of rationing system or like rules governing taking things from the warehouse, it's, I guess, just a free-for-all and anybody can take anything they want from it. And I wouldn't personally be opposed to taking a large collection of something if I thought I was going to need it and hoarding it in my personal room. But then that might also cause more conflict than it's worth. ... So not much. Yeah, she doesn't have blue hair. She has purple hair. So you kind of know that these special animated sections were done by a completely different team. They didn't even have a color palette locked in. This is a real low budget game that almost certainly would have not been worthwhile to even localize later on if it weren't for the fact that there is a Danganronpa 2, Danganronpa 3, and I think maybe one or two spin-off Danganronpa games, so it caught people's attention enough to move forward. But this is kind of a game that, particularly if you were thinking it would sell really, really well in the West, which I don't know why you would think that, you would maybe make an argument for a remaster. But I don't know how much you could really remaster this game and keep it the same anyways. A better argument would be to just make a soft reboot. I also want to mention Celeste's symbol on her tie looks distractingly like the USB symbol. It's not quite that, but it's close. She stuffed the jacket into her bag in a hurry. It was almost like she was trying to hide it. And just like that, she was gone.
Yes, indeed.
I assume she was merely stocking up to go exercise in the morning, but it appears she ignored the nighttime rule and headed directly to the girls' locker room. If she hadn't broken a rule, none of this ever would have happened. Well, this almost makes an argument that Celeste did it simply because she suggested a rule and somebody broke it. You get what you deserve, I suppose. So apparently, she went to the girls' locker room late at night in order to exercise without anyone knowing. But the strange thing is, there was no trace of a track jacket or duffel bag Celeste said she saw in Chihiro carrying, which would mean the killer would have gotten rid of it somehow. Celeste account has been added to the Truth Bullets section of your handbook. Alright, well, then are we to go back here and see if somebody has eliminated a duffel bag. I guess the answer to that is no. We can't just assume that if evidence is missing, it is in the trash area. Can I go to my own room? That's an interesting question. If I was to come over here in an investigation mode and then click on my door, yep, it won't let you go in there. Alright. So then, we'd already talked to him. So I think we are going to have to go to the library. There's nothing in the gym. And unless we were going to go back and try and investigate the boys' locker room again, which, I mean, there might be something to that. But I think if there is something to that, then the game will just force us to do that anyways. So it's just fast travel here. So back to the library to check out the extension cord. We have a lamp. Oh, the lamp won't turn on. Oh, I see, it's not plugged in. The lamp's cord isn't long enough to reach the outlet from here. But the last time I saw it, it was definitely on. And it was definitely right here. Well, that's right, Byakuya was using an extension cord. Now, there is an argument here as to why are there tables that don't have plugs somewhere near them if you were gonna need lamps. Although, if I think about every library I've been in, they typically are so brightly lit anyways that you don't need lamps. So the bigger question is, why is this library so dark in the first place? But then I guess the entire school is kind of darkly lit. But there's no extension cord here now. I wonder if library desk lamp has been added to the truth bullets. Yeah, the light, you can see like one light here, and then you've got a black ceiling up here, and there's another light here. And sure, from this perspective it seems somewhat well lit, but it really isn't. Not for a library. Shelves packed tight. And so I can't, in this case, click on... I can't click on this outlet or anything else, so I think that's pretty much everything we needed to see. So now we go back to the archives. And then we can look at the box where there was an extension cord. And we can see there's a lamp here, which is a different lamp. And then I guess the bigger question would be, do I want to try and read some of the other classified bits of information? ... But it means I become a target. Nope, I leave it where it is. Thank you very much. Want to take another lead? I know it was around here somewhere. ... Huh, it's gone. Did someone take it out of the archive? But the only one who would have do something like that is... I can't think of anyone but Byakuya. Ding dong bing bong. So... apparently doing that and finding that the file is missing has opened up a movement to the next section of the class trial.
I'm getting tired of waiting. Shall we just plunge right in?
Seems like every time you feel like you've made halfway progress. The Monokuma makes you go to the class trial. Uh, that way you don't pre-solve the case before you actually do the part of the game that has the most gameplay mechanics.
It's the moment you've all been waiting for. The class trial.
Now we'll want to see if
You
this jumps
remember
us
where to
directly
meet, right?
to the elevator section.
Please go through the red door on the first floor of the school. See you soon.
Begin the class trial, or it's about to begin. So it jumps you to the red door, but then it makes you walk through the red door. Which, what happens if we try to leave? There's no running away now. Interesting. So often you have this scenario where you're not able to go into the places you'd like to go into. I want to make we want to make sure that we talk to everybody the first time before we click on the door. So is everyone ready to what? Am I blind or are we missing someone?
Yo.
Yeah, Toko's not here. And Toko is... You really don't remember? Kidding, I'm just kidding. How could I forget that little nut job? She's a crucial part of the class trial this time.
What are you gonna do?
Okie dokie. I'll go ahead and drag her out here, kicking and screaming. Just a moment, please. And just like he said a few moments later, he reappeared, dragging Toko behind him. Ugh. I told him I didn't want to, but he forced me. I can't believe you would drag a girl around. Terrible. You're terrible. Whew. So now everyone's here, right? Okay then. Hustle on to the elevator and let's get this show on the road. So it's also worth mentioning that he didn't kill her for not showing up on time, so apparently that wasn't a rule. I'll see you guys down there.
Let's go.
So, shall we get going? It's time to find out who killed Chihiro. Chihiro Fujisaki. She was so gentle, so calm, so meek. Nobody had any problems with her. So we didn't even get like a good explanation as to whether the plug was around her neck or not. It looks like it is, but I mean it almost certainly has to be, otherwise the plug would just be going parallel, wouldn't it? I don't know, if you hit somebody in the head with something in in murder or passion, and then you try to make it look like a different kind of planned murder, which is what is, I think, being implied here. Does that work as an idea? Yeah, it might. I imagine like plenty of people could take the blame. Plenty of serial killers and gangs and such could take the blame if you stage a murder to look like somebody else did it. Someone made the choice to kill a girl like that. And the murderer is one of us. Someone's standing right here. And we can see, like, there's still quite a lot of people in this elevator. This is one of those scenes where it feels like it would have been smarter to either have a much bigger elevator or rethink the whole room, or just have fewer people. I mean, you could pretty well have eliminated at least the fashionista character from the entire game series, because she played really no role. Someone standing here. Alright, so let's just talk to everybody this time. You ready? Will we do... What? I don't even know what that said.
Well,
I will uncover the villain who performs such heinous acts on a weaker individual.
Shall we go?
Shall we begin? So it's not like these guys. I don't know why the killer did what they did, but I'm sure it'll work itself out. Justice always prevails, right, bro? So yeah, I don't think any of these guys are gonna
Very sad.
say anything. Miss Fujisaki admit for being 3D, which she was quite remarkable. Of course, just the idea of 3D makes me cringe. He makes me cringe. And clearly he's written that way intentionally.
Hey, come on.
Effing Toko, man. What's got her so worked up? Yeah, definitely talk to Toko. There's something odd about Toko's behavior. I don't think a mere shock is enough to explain it. I guess it wasn't much help at all in this one. I gave you plenty to work with. Show us how far your logic can take you. Alright, and so then we just have a camera and the screen. I'm looking for nice coins, just in case there's some nice coins. Nope. So it kind of seems like it's kind of pointless to have that scene once again. There could have easily been no elevator in the first place. There is also a question about just what would a room like this really have been used for in general. Like, if Hope's Peak had a school, why would it have elevators that go either up and down, but not have a exit to that elevator, for instance, on the second floor? Because obviously the exit for this elevator, if it does go up, has been walled off. And why would it go downward at all? Japan is not particularly known, or yeah, pretty much all of Japan is not particularly known for having basements, because it is mostly at or below sea level, and having a basement and underground facilities is not a smart way to build buildings. You'll get a lot of groundwater seepage and a lot of flooding. We have no choice, right? We have to do this. Yes. I gave a small nod in reply. Then one last breath, I walked toward the elevator on shaky legs. With each step forward, I could feel my heart starting to race faster and faster. As soon as everyone was on, the elevator began to descend. I couldn't get a handle on my emotions. I couldn't stop speculating. Yeah, it would have made so much more sense to simply have you walk through the red door and then jump to this scene here if you need to have this scene at all. They could have literally just walked through the door, and the classroom trial area could be set, could have been right behind the red door, and that would have worked too. The whole elevator really isn't adding anything other than just an ominous feeling, and it's barely doing that. Yep. And clearly this is just the same image as it was before. Everybody's standing in the same position, their faces turned away. They just cut and paste out the people that died in the last chapter. The steel box sank with heavy clunking sounds deeper and deeper into the ground. As we went deeper, the uneasiness in my heart grew bigger and bigger. The elevator was unaffected, however, and continued descending without hesitation. There seems like there are no buttons, and oddly, maybe one or two buttons for the entire elevator, and it feels like it's an old-fashioned elevator. Normally I would think the buttons would be on the right hand of the door too, not the left side. Until finally, it came to a sudden stop. What do you think? I redecorated. Isn't it so fresh? Isn't it so exciting? So, the walls look slightly different. Don't waste our time with stupid question. Let's get this over with. Good, good. You're rip-roaring to go. Gotta say, I don't hate it. Not at all. Okay then, let's get this show on the road. Everyone, please find your assigned seats. Once again saying they have seats when they don't. And so, the curtain opened once again. A deadly judgment, a deadly deception, a deadly betrayal, a deadly riddle, a deadly defense, a deadly faith, a deadly class trial. That is slightly different than what was said the first time. So, pre-trial prep. Do we want to save? Yes. We're at slot 12. So if we look at the handbook, we have 16 instead of 14 truth bullets. Presence wise, we're pretty much the same way where we are. Report cards wise, we're pretty much the same place where we are. Chihiro is now marked as dead. Regulations wise, we had a few things added. Loaning your handbook is strictly prohibited. Guilty party may kill a maximum of 2 people during a single killing game. And more rules may be added when necessary. Let's center skills. So we have 12 SP, and yet we only really have 3 items and skills. And there is a split here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15. So if you got one ability from each of the people, then it would stop there. But then it goes to 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. 26 implies that there's nearly 2 abilities we unlock somehow, either by hanging out with people per person or some other way. So we're going to increase the speed of memorizing a statement effective during the non-stop debate. Cost 2 SP. I might as well equip it. Like, I have plenty of SP and not enough skills. I clearly need to figure out how to unlock at least one skill in the next chapter by minimum, if not more. And let's see, the truth bullet rate of fire is already sped up for the non-stop debate and bullet time battle final strikes. So we do have something that's helping us with the final strike element, but that final argument, I would like an ability to slow that down. And then this increases the damage when a statement is destroyed. So yeah, there's still a lot of stuff here. I'm noticing at the bottom of the screen they're trying to scroll the text, but the text is scrolling very awkwardly. It kind of jumps forward and jumps in bursts. Bizarre class trial begins. Why was Chihiro murdered? Is the killer hiding within the group? Is there any help to be found in this series of murders? Question mark. Let's finish the preparations because we really can't do anything else. All rise.
Let's begin with a basic explanation of the class trial. So, your votes will determine the results.
Do we need an explanation?
If you can figure out who done it,
I mean, it has been
will receive
a
punishment.
decent time since the last class trial, but not that long. In fact, we kind of rushed through it. And it's ideally, Chapter 3 would get to the class trial even faster. That way we can eliminate the slow parts of the game as much as possible.
Then I'll punish everyone besides the blackened, and the one that deceived everyone else will graduate. Okay then. So, first off,
Like, it is worth mentioning again, I really don't 100% remember who did this murder. I knew Chihiro was gonna die. So, just playing the game normally, it looks to me like Byakuya did it. It could be Toko did it. And if they include anybody else, I'm gonna have to hear some evidence as to why anybody else would really have done it. We've seen a lot of how or what, but not enough of why or who for sure.
let's talk about the murder weapon.
In a funny way, Monokuma is kind of directing the conversation, so he kind of is trying to help you succeed or trying to mess with you. First, we have to make clear what was used to deliver the fatal blow. Okay. Make your argument. Locker room dumbbell is our truth bullet. And yeah, you're always going to have these. And we have to remember it was a Y.
According to the Monokuma file, the killer used a
This moves so slow.
What kind of blunt instrument could it have been?
Nope, that was wrong. It has to be an actual contradiction, not an addition. I need to think more about it one more time. There must be a contradiction in the statement somewhere. So I start off by immediately losing a heart. And again, we're back to the different voice acting.
The killer used a blunt instrument.
So weird.
What kind of blunt instrument could it have been?
This moves.
It was an iron pipe.
There it goes. Like, it's so incredibly slow, and then you have different voice actors, and it just feels odd.
It was covered in blood, and there was nothing else at the scene that could have caused that kind of injury.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of other things that you might have been able to use, but does it really matter what hit her in the head if something hit her in the head?
And the wound on the victim's head is
It's not like they're
consistent
gonna
with
make
the
the
shape of
argument
dumbbell.
somebody couldn't pick up the dumbbell because they were so weak, or that they didn't have the use of their hands.
As far as I'm concerned, there's no mistake and no room for doubt on this one.
Yeah, they almost intentionally are telling you just don't
Looked at her head wound?
don't worry about it and just assume it's the dumbbell at the beginning. Yeah, and this is definitely something I suppose that does need to be pointed out. Here you have high school students that pretty much don't want to look at dead bodies. They're going to have to do like medical examinations of the bodies, and if they're too afraid to look, then they won't have the answer. And I imagine that is in part the embarrassment level of Japanese people in particular, that they wouldn't want to look at dead bodies and head wounds. But pretty much anywhere, any high school kids would think it's creepy and not want to do it. ...
If you don't mind, I will proceed from here. Let's move on to discussion of the culprit.
See, Byakuya is trying to put it all on Genocide Jack because I think it's Byakuya that did it.
Although, I believe the criminal behind this heinous act is already quite clear.
And I feel like he's going to try and dominate the conversation for quite a while.
For real?
Chihiro's killer is the fiendish serial killer, Genocide Jack.
If anything, it kind of feels like Byakuya is just a kid with his toys who's obsessed with proving right or proving that it's Genocide Jack. Genocide Jack, the fiendish serial killer. Did he really kill Chihiro? New element has been added to the non-stop debates. Would you like to hear more? Absolutely. For this debate, lines of white noise will appear to disrupt your action. Your truth bullets will disappear if they hit these lines, so think of them as obstacles in your debates. But there's a way to keep the white noise from getting in your way. Press the A button to attach the silencer, and then you can shoot down the white noise. However, if you shoot an actual remark with the silencer instead of the white noise, the time limit will be decreased. Be careful to aim only when you have your silencer out. ... Oh, but if your action difficulty is set to gentle, white noise won't appear at all. In which case, just forget about the silencer and just focus on the situation in front of you. Well then, good luck and have fun. Jeez. So gentle is really a different game. So still only one bullet.
The culprit is Genocide Jack.
So you just hit A over them?
As far as I'm concerned.
But that's impossible.
Why? What makes it impossible?
So now we get more time, like we needed it.
There's just no proof for it.
No, that's wrong.
Let's counter. There is some proof.
I might know one reason he could be involved.
What?
I found this file. while I was looking around the archive in the library.
See how Byakuya is using Makoto to introduce evidence without exposing himself?
I guess it's some kind of confidential file the police put together about the Genocide Jack case.
What? That's kind of weird as shit, isn't it? What was something like that doing in the library?
Good question.
The why of it is probably more trouble than it's worth. So let's forget about that for now. More importantly, it outlines all the specifics of every Genocide Jack case in exceeding detail. According to the file, there appear to be 2 defining characteristics in every Genocide Jack case.
So at some point, if we're hitting A and Y during the gun contradiction battles, at some point we might very well have to hit X and B, and that might be a little too complicated for me, having to switch between 4 different face buttons while also targeting different lines of dialogue.
The first is that a bloody message is found written at the scene of every murder.
Oh, that's right. Boob lust.
Ifumi once again making a dirty joke and being a speed bump to every conversation. You kind of want him to be the murderer just to get rid of him, but that's unlikely.
No. It's actually bloodlust.
And yeah, in Japanese, that joke probably wouldn't work unless it was always written in English.
But more important is the other characteristic, and it's something that has never been made public.
Never made public? What the hell is it?
Why don't you tell them, Makoto?
Why don't you just finish your own conversation, Byakuya? The other characteristic of every Genocide Jack case, which the world at large doesn't know, if I'm not mistaken, has to do with the victim was positioned. Yep. That gets me back up to 4.5
in
hearts.
every Genocide Jack case, the killer suspends the body in a certain way. Other than the killer, the only people who know about this are the higher-ups in the police department.
However, Chihiro was most definitely suspended in the same way.
Not really.
So, how did the culprit know about this when only high-level police officials were aware of it? There's only one logical answer I can think of. It's because the culprit in this case is the real Genocide Jack.
And see, it would be an interesting twist if this was the point where it revealed all the Ultimate students are actually serial killers. Or there's at least some suspicion that all the students are serial killers instead of just one of them. That would definitely change the game. But at a certain point, then if everybody's a bad guy and everybody's killed before, then these murder mysteries would seem kind of pointless because everybody would deserve to die at that point. And we want to feel like at least some of the people deserve to survive and are innocent bystanders. Although I don't know how many of them actually will end up being innocent bystanders by the end of the game. It may just be Makoto.
No fucking way.
And I'd forgotten how much Mondo cussed again.
Genocide Jack is one of us?
Yes, in fact, it's Toko.
Okay. So he just straight up says it's Toko. What?
Genocide Jack's true identity is Toko Fukawa.
What is he saying? Screaming. What?
Hey, okay, wait, hold on a sec. Toko has like bloodophobia or whatever, remember? What kind of serial killer is afraid of blood?
Yeah.
Is Toko Genocide Jack? The answer is yes and no.
Another
it's easy to play these sections when it's all voice acted, I guess. I can just be silent. It's a riddle for sure, but I feel like I understand it. What it means for Genocide Jack to be Toko, but also to not be Toko. The answer is that she's not just one person, but multiple people, right? Are we gonna do a hangman gambit to spell out identity disorder? I don't even split. Schizophobia, schism, schizo. What am I trying to spell here? T Z A C B. Gosh. C. Oh wait, no, you have to hit these multiple times, don't you? Well, I forgot how this whole thing worked.
Now I understand.
So, first of all, you have to be able to spell. Second of all, you have to hit the things
Genocide Jack
multiple
has a
times.
split personality?
And yet I didn't have to hit them multiple times for the first 3 letters. Is it possible Genocide Jack has a split personality? Huh?
I think I read that
Well, I'm gonna get a
somewhere in
bad
the
score for
file,
that
too.
one.
They thought that the suspect might have, what did they call it? Dissociative identity disorder.
Oh, okay. But still, to go and say that about Miss Fukawa is...
Perfectly acceptable.
Interesting.
Toko's strange behavior after seeing the body is proof enough that she has a split personality.
The one thing, her behavior changed. She arrived late. She fainted.
I got it!
And I'm gonna have to get those hearts
You're
back.
talking about how she started acting totally different than usual, right?
That's right. Think back. She fainted when she saw Chihiro's corpse, and then, when she woke up...
Well, so now her tongue isn't hanging out because she had a seizure or hit her head. It's hanging out because she has a weird split personality, and this is the point where they're going to start to do a really awful job about displaying mental health issues in this game. Do not take this as true. Whoa, is that a dead body? Hey, are you dead? She must have hit her head real hard when she fainted. The world has a front and a back, a top, inning, and a bottom, a sea of truth and a web of lies. That is quite concerning. I mean, she sounds completely different. Also, she stopped
Acting
stuttering.
funny, that's for sure. That melancholy tone of hers completely disappeared.
Don't go assigning adjectives to my tone without permission.
Interesting. Like, that's a weird sentence. I wonder if that was supposed to be "don't tone police me."
Not to mention, once she regained consciousness and saw Chihiro's body again, she was utterly calm. In other words, within her is one personality that can handle blood, and one that obviously can.
So when Toko trapped herself in her room, it's because she was scared of Genocide Jack?
I won't let Genocide Jack have control. I'll drive out the killer. Drive out the murderous fiend.
The reason she locked herself in her room wasn't to keep other people from getting in. It was to keep her other personality from getting out.
What?
Well, how are you gonna barricade a door on one side and stop Genocide Jack from unbarricading it?
Toko was afraid. Afraid of the murderous fiend inside of her. Of killing even more people.
How?
How? Question mark?
How can you know all this?
Good question. Still not sure it's not Byakuya
I
that
do
did the
believe
murder.
you misunderstood her. What she's trying to say isn't, how can you know all this? No. What she wants to know is, how could you tell them?
See.
Huh?
Last night, just before Monokuma gave his motive speech, Toko and I had a strange conversation.
Oh, so she just straight up told him?
She told me a most interesting story. She said a murderous fiend lived within her, and she was afraid it could appear and attack at any time. And that trepidation is what's caused her to have such a bleak attitude. Isn't that right, Toko?
So she basically confessed it to him because she's got a crush on him or something.
This is all a lie. Right, Toko?
You said you wouldn't tell anyone.
What?
Well, so she just basically confesses it.
Promised. I can't believe you lied.
So at this point, it does also introduce an interesting thought that this whole case could just be done with fairly quickly. And that might work to have a very quick case number 2 and get back into more of the free time. But you really can't do too much of that because there was so much wind up. Like, we have 16 truth bullets, we've used maybe 2 or 3 of them. That would be very ridiculous for the case to completely end at this point.
You have only yourself to blame. You came to me with your tragic little story. I didn't ask you to. This is the real world, not some romantic fantasy.
Remember,
fairy tale.
Toko is supposed to be the ultimate, like, romance writer, which I don't know if maybe that is true, that her main personality does write ultimate romance novels, but seems like her split personality is probably more the ultimate serial killer than Toko is the ultimate romance novelist.
Besides, you broke your promise first.
What?
You said that as long as you were here, no matter what, you wouldn't let Genocide Jack kill anyone. But in spite of that promise...
I'm sorry I couldn't keep our promise, but don't worry, never again. I won't let Genocide Jack have control ever again.
You said if I kept my promise, you would go out with me.
And see, this is where it gets weird and awkward, is it? It's like you're on this murder mystery game, and Toko was trying to get a date.
That's the only reason I promised.
How many times do I have to tell you? I never said that. But you weren't able to do it. You just couldn't resist that rush you got from killing, could you?
Yeah, Byakuya's still being a jerk while even being right.
I tried. I swear I tried to control it.
But your efforts were useless. What a disappointment.
Yeah, Byakuya would be definitely an abusive boyfriend, so...
I hate you.
I'm glad they're not together.
Well, the opening act is nearly finished. All that's left is to hear from the person in question directly.
The person?
A lot of different animations that they're swinging through.
You don't mean...
Toko's body suddenly lunged backwards. A thud echoed across the room, but in the next second... This is a weird pan up. And we've got a tongue sticking out very, very far. And it is labeled as Genocide Jill, not Jack.
What the heck? So you figured it out, huh? Well, whatever. What are you gonna do?
And Genocide Jill is kind of voiced better than Toko is.
I'm the ultimate murderous fiend, Genocide Jack! Or better yet, let's go with Genocide Jill!
And her tongue is just going to be out every time. Very lizard-like, non-human. And maybe that makes sense as to why there was an extra seat at the beginning of the first trial that they noticed, that there was actually 16 spaces instead of 15, because there's a split personality person.
What the fuck is this?
What happened to you?
Not Toko, that's a loser name, and what happened is a textbook split personality. So what if one of them happens to be a serial killer? You should turn a blind eye to one's fault.
Oh, screen spun there.
So intense.
Like they say, sound in murderous mind, sound in murderous body.
This one is so different from the one we've come to know.
The Sakura still sounds so weird.
Yes, well, the world is composed of a front and a back, you know. Just like how every inning has a top and a bottom, or how in the depths of every truth lives a little lie. Behind every dark and gloomy soul lives another that shines as bright as the sun!
Actually, the way she talks, I would half expect Genocide Jill was the one writing the novels, too. So, does it really work to have a total sociopath killer in character like Genocide Jill in this story? I kind of wonder, like, because it kind of feels like it just finds yet another rail to go off of when we already have a bunch of crazy characters. This is the ultimate murderous fiend, Genocide Jack. This is beyond insane.
Miss Jack,
Sure.
Jill, can I ask you a question? What's up?
What's up?
Some of us think you might be the mastermind behind our entire situation. What are your thoughts on that?
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you, I am the mastermind of all masterminds. Just kidding.
Just kidding.
Then it's not true?
Of course it's not true. How dare you try to link me to that creepazoid?
Even Monokuma is calling her creepy.
And another thing, the police and government and society in the outside world are totally powerless. I mean, they just let this idiotic, bloodthirsty maniac go buck wild all over town.
Sure, I'm a bloodthirsty maniac, but life is pain, right? To live is to hurt other people. It's a necessary evil if you want to survive. The act of living itself causes pain for everyone.
It's an interesting theory. Hard to convince me on that.
Kidding again.
This should be enough to convince you. This murderous fiend is responsible for Chihiro's death. There's clearly a motive, so there should be no doubt.
Why would there be a motive from Genocide Jill to kill Chihiro, though? To escape and stay hidden? I don't know if that would be the case.
A motive?
Remember what Monokuma told us?
Oh, I guess if Monokuma did tell everybody that she was Genocide Jill, then she couldn't get to the outside world and kill more people.
If someone didn't murder and graduate within 24 hours, an embarrassing memory or secret would be revealed.
This would be funny if she pulls out that embarrassing memory or secret and it has nothing to do with Genocide Jill.
Well, let's assume that Toko's secret was about Genocide Jack. If a secret like that came to light, Toko's life would have undoubtedly been forever ruined. So she had a very clear motive to never have that side of herself exposed.
He makes a good point.
Interesting. Very, very, very interesting. But sorry, as much as I hate to admit it, I'm not the culprit.
Okay. So now she's gonna deny it.
I cannot imagine anyone other than you could murder someone in such a bizarre fashion.
Maybe so, but nevertheless, it's the truth.
Do you really expect any of us to believe you?
Yeah. I could never believe a word you say, you monster.
Maybe. Maybe she's totally right about that, but something's still bothering me. What she said. I need to get some more details about all of this. Make your argument. Status of the dead body is our bullet, and now we have to remember to press between A and...
Sorry, but I didn't kill anyone.
You say that, but do you really expect any of us to believe it?
Perhaps if you had an alibi, that would change things.
Oh, an alibi, huh? Now we're talking.
When you compare your past murders to this incident, the modus operandi matches completely.
Hit that one.
No, it's wrong.
I'm still at like 4 out of 5 hearts.
Are the methods of murder really exactly the same? I'm not so sure about that. I think there's a slight difference between the Genocide Jack cases and this one.
Yep. And it is kind of stupid easy to realize the difference as far as the methods of murder. Which once again just makes this game feel like it's targeted to like edgy 14-year-olds. And the introduction of Genocide Jill, once again, edgy 14-year-old stuff.
How's it any different?
Oh, you don't know? Well then, human garbage, let me tell you.
Insult him while you try to get him on your side.
I murder with passion and conviction.
I'd still like to figure out how she's jamming a a scissors, particularly knowing now that it's Toko's little female body. It doesn't look like it's strong enough to really stab scissors through walls. Although, maybe you've got some kind of hammer or something they use on top of that.
I consider myself a professional, and I have a very particular way of doing things. Imagine you go to a fancy Italian restaurant. They're very picky about the noodles, the sauce, everything.
Yeah, like Celeste was picky about the milk tea.
But what happened to Chihiro? It'd be like if that same Italian restaurant started using ragu or Chef Boyardee. This is no creation of mine.
Let me rephrase that in a way that maybe makes more sense. There are two clear differences between the Genocide Jack cases.
Makoto's having to talk for her because she's so crazy. One clear difference between the murders. Foes from the other Genocide Jacks look at the neck and stomach. Here you can see clear difference. The victim's fatal injury.
For one, the cause of death is different. In the Genocide Jack murders, all the victims were killed the same way. According to the case file, they were all apparently killed with a pair of scissors. But Chihiro died from a blow to the head, right?
Ah, yes. That is remarkably different from the other murders.
Wouldn't it be strange for someone who kills the same way without fail to suddenly change
Of course,
their method?
there is a selection bias here. It would be very believable that Genocide Jack does kill other people without the scissors sometimes, and in those cases are just never labeled as Genocide Jack killings. There were at least one serial killer case, I know of that, where they simply eliminated a lot of cold cases and murders from being considered having been done by that serial killer just because he changed up his actions a little bit. And there's at least one serial killer I can think of that literally intentionally changed up his method of operation almost every time. So there was no way that they could realize it was a serial killer for a very long time.
And there's more. One more conflicting detail.
That's right. In my recipe of murder, if the bloody message is the tortellini, then
Talking
the
about food.
arrangement of the body would be the pesto sauce.
Could you please stop comparing killing people to cooking? So, are you saying the other difference has to do with how the body was arranged?
That's right, the second difference relates to how she was suspended. In the photos of the other Genocide Jack cases, all the other victims were stabbed through their hands. How the body was, how she was suspended, what was used to suspend her.
I got it.
So now I'm back
Do
up to
you
5
remember
hearts.
What the killer used to suspend her? They used some kind of rope to hang her up by her wrists.
Not a rope, a plug, we already figured that out.
What is your point?
Well, in all the previous Genocide Jack cases, something else was used to suspend them. Specifically, pairs of razor-sharp scissors.
I don't know why he says pairs, because the images are showing like 3, 4, sometimes 5 scissors. So it seems to be there's a whole bunch of them.
And guess what? I used my own specially designed scissors for the murders and the arrangement.
Yep.
Like I said, I'm a professional, so naturally I'm very picky about the tools I use.
Which pretty much means unless she's handcrafting these scissors somewhere, there is some metalsmith out there making custom scissors in bulk, and she's ordering them and buying them. And that would have definitely been a way that the police should have investigated Genocide Jack and caught her.
And you know what else? Big Mac said there's 2 differences, but he's wrong.
Big Mac, interesting nickname for Makoto.
Big Mac? Are you referring to me?
Once again, this probably is a localization, but not a terrible localization. If you were just going to give stupid nicknames to people, Makoto being turned into Big Mac is a decent one.
Listen up, Big Mac. There's actually one more difference.
Huh?
Huh?
My word, you really didn't notice? Take a look at who the victims were in each Genocide Jack case. There's a pattern there, just waiting to be discovered. Figure that out, and it'll be plain as death why I couldn't have possibly killed that little lolly girl.
And weird translation there to call her a lolly, because little and lolly, I think in this instance would be pretty much the same anyways, as just she's a small girl. If anything, you might call her moe or chibi if you were gonna call her anything using a Japanese borrowed word, but little, or you could have called her a scrawny, which would have been the best localization, I think. There's because she did have that whole thing about wanting to be stronger. Let's see. There was a pattern surrounding the Genocide Jack victims, and Chihiro didn't fit it. If you look at the names of every victim, what you'll notice is nothing if you don't understand Japanese. Because Chihiro was a girl.
I got it! Is it because Chihiro was a girl?
Bingo, bullseye, right on the money!
So, but that is, once again, a problem if you don't know Japanese names. You would have seen in the first page with a couple pictures of guys, but you don't know for certain that the 4 or 5 other names on the second page where they didn't show you pictures, whether those were guys' names or not. And that's why it probably would have been helpful to put a Mr. honorific in front of each of the people and just call them Mr. this, Mr. that. Shihiro goes, what are you talking about?
In all the Genocide Jack cases, all the victims had something in common.
So Kin, Tachiro, Shoji, Kano. Also, I suppose it is also worth mentioning, I'm not sure if they're writing the family name first or the family name second. So it could really be that their first name may be Harada, Hondo, Gaku, Isai, Yoshida. So that becomes a problem too. But see, here's the second sentence here. In any of those, you could have taken that as those being potential female names, if you're not familiar with Japanese.
Guys?
That's right! The people I killed with such passion and conviction are all adorable little men!
Little there is probably also a weird localization choice. It seemed like they were all of different body shapes and different ages.
I can't believe I said it! I'm so embarrassed!
So, yeah. It's almost like Genocide Jill has a inability to just like have a crush on guys, and so, or Toko has an ability to act on crushes on guys, so maybe Toko sees somebody that she has a crush on, and then Genocide Jill kills them because she's doesn't have a normal way to react to her own emotions and feelings.
What the hell is wrong with you?
I can't help it! I'm just a full-throttle boy-on-boy fangirl, and the movie side of me just hates it.
Full throttle boy on boy fangirl. So is she interested in like gay guys? Is that what that means? There is quite an industry of yaoi, which is like gay entertainment, boy on boy, usually somewhat sort of young teenage boy on boy romance novels out there, and there's less shame of reading those, of being a teenage girl and reading those kinds of stories. So maybe that is what this would have originally been in Japanese, that she's a full throttle yaoi fangirl, and thus she would be kind of the exact opposite, or at least slightly opposite, I don't know if exact opposite, of the romance novels that Toko writes, which I assume were heterosexual romance novels.
But now I'm on the fast track to becoming a full-fledged fan madam!
Fan madam? I don't know what that means.
So since Chihiro was a girl and not an adorable little man, you wouldn't kill her?
Adorable little man. It feels like they're trying to use the word like shoja, which means, or no, not shoja, shota, which would mean little boy, but that's not the right word either. Man, I don't have enough of a grasp on Japanese to really get to the core of what they would have been saying in Japanese, and I do have enough of a grasp on English to know the way it's being translated doesn't quite make sense either.
Would an Italian chef suddenly start making ramen just because they're both noodles? Don't be stupid. I have too much passion and conviction to cross that line. That's the absolute reality of the one and only.
We get it. You've clearly explained your hobby and your philosophy. But that's not all there is to it. It's a different matter entirely, when you're forced to kill in order to survive.
So now Byakuya is making a good argument. Although, if anything, if Genocide Jill was going to kill somebody, why not kill Byakuya? He is a better target for sure. Maybe Byakuya's just too smart. But you could have also gone off to Taka or Mondo or Makoto. Also, she seems not to really like Byakuya.
I would never kill for a reason as petty as mere survival.
You kill Hifumi.
And if by some fluke I did kill to survive,
Interesting, she's just gonna tell you who she would have picked.
why would I bother with the message and arrangement? It'd make me the obvious suspect.
That does make some amount of sense.
If she was gonna kill anybody, she would have probably killed Leon.
Plus, whatever reason I have for killing, I would never leave out my prized scissors. Who would go out of their way to use a big, stupid, heavy dumbbell?
Maybe you used the dumbbell because you couldn't find any scissors in the school?
Any scissors? I don't just use any scissors. I only use my own set of high-class envy of the entire world scissors.
Okay, whatever. There still aren't any in the school.
Are you sure about that?
So she just has the murder weapons on her. Well, with that fancy design, she does seem to be capable of holding quite a few of them in her hand at once.
She's fully equipped.
Fully equipped.
That's right. So I can kill anywhere, anytime.
So how did she not get stripped of those when she was knocked out?
Why would I resort to dumbbells or rope when I have my trusty scissors by my side? Go ahead, tell me I'm wrong, you candy gutter
Would-
dogs, all of you.
Were these in the warehouse?
Not to mention, I have no clue how to tie a good knot. That rope's totally out of the question anyway.
Well, that's a claim that is hard to believe.
I have no idea what's going on anymore. Could such a heinous villain really be innocent?
But the body really was suspended, right? And nobody but the police knew about that.
Yeah. That's why we figured it had to be the real deal and not some copycat killer or whatever.
They're taking our sweet time here. Actually, hold on. There is one person who could have copied Genocide Jack cases. Select someone. Well, it's gotta be Byakuya, doesn't it?
Here's my answer. Byakuya, it's possible you could have found out, isn't it?
So, we're gonna make an accusation on Byakuya, which is weird, but okay.
You'd have no problem gaining access to classified government documents or internal police records.
Oh yeah, we're accusing him because of his family connections, not because he's just been hanging out at the library and in the archive this whole time.
Plus, you've already looked through the Genocide Jack file before this all happened, hadn't you?
Are you saying Mr. Togami did it?
Dot.
And the reason he pushed the theory of Genocide Jack being the killer so hard was because he wanted to pin the crime on her.
So The adorable glasses man was behind it all. Oh, I'm on fire!
So now he's calling her the adorable glasses man, or Byakuya the adorable glasses man.
Well, Byakuya, what's your response?
I see. So now the suspicion falls on me. Then I must ask, when would you say I began acting suspicious? Surely you must have an answer.
Looking back and thinking about it now, the way you were acting right before we discovered the body was a little strange.
The way he was acting after the first chapter pretty much has been strange. And the locker rooms, they're suspicious, very suspicious indeed. Wouldn't you agree? Huh? Suspicious? It seems nobody searched the locker rooms. Let's start with the girls' locker room.
You wanted to go to the girls' locker room right away, right?
I should have naturally thought of the boys' locker room first. Is that what you want to say?
Oops, hit the A button too early.
The victim was Chihiro, a girl. Hence why I said we should check the girls' locker room.
Nothing strange about that, I'd say.
On the contrary, there's something very strange.
What's very strange about that?
Okay then, what's so strange about it? Go ahead, share with the rest of the class.
There's clear contradiction to what Byakuya just said, and this is going to be messed up if the revelation here is what I think it is. To make it clear to everyone, a new element has been added to the non-stop debates. Would you like to hear more? Sure. Next we're going to add something called a truth flashback. If you aim at a weak spot and hold down the Y button, ... then you'll memorize that weak spot. This memorized phrase can then be shot at once as a single truth bullet. If you shoot or change the truth bullet, it'll disappear from your truth cylinder. However, you can use this flashback feature as many times as you want. If you don't seem to have the answer to a lie or contradiction in your loaded truth bullets, it might be wise to memorize a different weak spot and use that to make your case. When's the best time to flashback? Well, you'll just have to use your keen wits, won't you? In this case, I'll say that if you don't use a flashback, you won't be refuting anything. Well then, good luck and have fun. Okay. So we're doing this gun thing and we're going to have to hold down Y. Because right now we have Monokuma file number 2.
So, you said Byakuya was acting kind of weird before we found the body.
And
But
I
he
guess
was
we...
acting weird. How?
So you hold down Y.
Presented with the opportunity to check out the girls' locker room. You absolutely take it.
And what's funny is we don't have the A things to shoot
The
at.
victim was Chihiro, who was a girl. So of course I would suggest we check the girls' locker room first. There was no time for
he
pointless
didn't know that the victim was the Chihiro.
What's so strange about that?
Like, is there a button here though that we can go back and reset? No.
You wish you'd taken me with you.
Let's see. Hearing Byakuya's comment about Chihiro being a girl, I realized that there's a clear contradiction there because it doesn't make sense how he could have known before we'd found it. Okay, I need to make the contradiction clear. So,
you said Byakuya was acting kind of weird before we found the body.
before they
But
found
he
the
was
body.
acting weird. How?
If you're presented with the
Let's see.
opportunity to check out the girls' locker room, you absolutely take it. That's a natural reaction for any guy.
And see, this just moves so slow, I don't...
Was Chihiro, who
We
was
hit
a girl.
that.
So of course I would suggest
And we
check
do
the girls'
that.
locker room first. There was no
But-
time for pointless distractions. What's so strange about that?
You wish you'd taken me with you.
Let's see.
So, you said Byakuya was acting kind of weird before
Is
we
it this one? Nope. Come on, Makoto, don't scare me like that. It makes me think something weird is going on. Let me think more about this. So,
So, you said Byakuya was acting kind of weird
before we found the body, must be
He was
it.
acting weird. How?
If
you're presented with the opportunity to check
See,
out the girls'
like,
locker
we're
room,
cutting down into our time,
Absolutely take it.
and I don't even know what the speed up button is. Like, fast forward argument would be B. I don't know if I really want to hit
The
it.
victim was Chihiro, who was...
No, that's wrong.
Finally, it takes 3 times to figure out how this works.
I'll tell you what's so strange about that. Because up until we actually discovered the body, we couldn't have known who the victim was.
Yeah, this is taking
So your
longer and I'm
claim that
doing
we went
worse.
to the girls' locker room first because Chihiro was the victim doesn't hold up.
I see. That's a good answer, I must admit. Interesting. Very interesting indeed. But your reasoning is still too weak.
See, Byakuya is just gonna insult you every time, though, and try to steamroll your arguments.
What's wrong? Is that it? Surely you've got more than that. Go ahead. Show us.
What's with Byakuya's attitude? It's like he doesn't even care. I've got him cornered, but he's acting like he has nothing to do with him.
You're not finished already, are you? There must be more to it.
There is, I think.
There is more to it. Think about it. We just talked about the differences between this case and past Genocide Jack incidents.
And Kyoko, once again, seems to be just a helper character.
The proof you're looking for is hidden in there.
Oh? Proof that I'm the culprit, you mean?
Difference between the cases. It's kind of ridiculous because we had a bunch of evidence that we used to point out that it was Genocide Jack, and now we're using the remaining evidence to point out that it's Byakuya. Let's see. What could it be? It's another Hangman's Curse. The library desk lamp. Is that what we're going to use? Or are we going to use Y?
What? The difference between the cases?
And we don't have the little red text again.
When I want to kill, I use my very own special scissors. And I use those same scissors to arrange the body.
But Chihiro was suspended with... It was some kind of rope. Was it not?
That's right. It absolutely was.
Then there must be something very fishy indeed about that rope.
Like, there's
Byakuya, where'd you get it?
only one.
I'd never seen that rope before in my life.
No.
So I did A, then Y. To get that to work.
Actually, I'm
I'm
pretty sure
glad
you have seen it before.
that it is this slow, but it is weird that the game moves this slow on normal.
Because you see, that rope, or should I say, that extension cord?
What? An extension cord?
Byakuya, you've used the extension cord in the library more than once, haven't you? And the same extension cord that was in the library all this time went missing after the murder. And there's no way someone who uses that extension cord as much as you do wouldn't discover that fact.
And Byakuya must be the one who took the extension cord. I can't imagine any other possibility.
I can imagine plenty of other possibilities. Dot, dot, dot.
That's really what you think? Then your conclusion is something like this? I killed Chihiro in the girls' locker room, then hung her up and wrote that bloody message. I intentionally made it look like Genocide Jack was behind it. Is that about right?
Dot, dot, dot. He's doing it again. He's totally calm, totally unconcerned. As if he's not even involved. Wait, not even involved.
What's wrong? I asked you if you think that's what happened.
Hell yes, that's what happened. So that's it, right?
It really does feel like if this was just an anime, I would probably enjoy it several percentage points more. Because just not having to hit the A button and just letting the story flow over me as a passive observer probably would be more interesting than having to be an active participant in moving the story forward is just kind of a waste of time.
Totally willing to do something like this to win.
Sorry, but could we hold on just a second? I think we need to talk about this a little more.
So Makoto's having doubts.
Do we really need to? We've already decided who did it.
I know, but still. There's something that's still bothering me.
What's still bothering them? There's several things that haven't been addressed yet. Yeah, so if we were to like go down this, we have like several accounts, an e-reader handbook, and the boys' locker room carpet, the posters being switched, disappearing stains, this Celeste account. That's just like a whole bunch of stuff that either are just red herrings or we've still got more to discover, to the point where it honestly feels like if it isn't Byakuya who was the murderer, then it wasn't really a fair mystery and you wouldn't have ever been able to figure it out if the story wasn't written in such a way to force you to figure it out.
That's right. And what, pray tell, is still bothering you? I killed her in the girls' locker room, then disguised my crime. Specifically, I dressed it up to make it look like it was the work of a homicidal psychopath.
I don't know why Byakuya is saying this. He's playing a dangerous gamble here. He's hoping people are smart enough to overlook at what he's saying.
What about all that bothers you?
Wait, was that just now? Something's not right. Chio's body was definitely found in the girls' locker room, but does that mean, can I really just accept what Byakuya just said is the truth? No, I don't think so. There's definitely something off about what he said. Well, let's go at the scene of the crime.
You say you killed Chihiro in the girls' locker room, right?
And see, I don't know if the timers on these are just always counting down, or if they get reset between each minigame.
But are you sure about that? Isn't it possible that the murder took place somewhere else?
Yeah, we really didn't see enough evidence to come to this conclusion. There should have been a conversation that happened before the trial for that, or one of the other characters needed to throw out this as a possibility. There's plenty of room here to have Mondo or Taka say something like that.
How disappointing. What kind of question is that? Even in the world of disappointments, this is a true letdown.
Yeah, Byakuya is still being a jerk.
She was found dead in the girls' locker room. There is absolutely no question about that. How could the scene of
we still haven't done anything with the duffel bag either.
Well, I think it's entirely possible that she was killed somewhere else, then carried there later, along with the rest of the murder scene.
The rest of the murder scene?
That
was awfully specific. Please tell me you have a reason for saying all of that.
I believe I do.
Hey Byakuya, did you just take off your guard? Was the story suddenly moved to the crime scene? Byakuya, who'd been so confident up to now. When the story suddenly moved to the crime scene, Byakuya, who'd been so confident up until now, maybe Byakuya never even realized that the actual crime of the scene could have been somewhere else.
Hey, don't just move on without permission. What do you mean she was killed somewhere else?
Come on, Makoto.
They want him to
If
talk.
there's any chance the murder took place somewhere else, let's see the proof.
Evidence that shows the murder took place somewhere else. There's something that was switched between the boys and the girls' locker room. Which locker room posters and obviously the carpets. I think they want the locker room posters here. So we're back up to 5 hearts, but we're running out of time.
The poster that's hanging in each locker room.
Your proof is some posters?
The poster in the girls' locker room was a picture of a big boobed supermodel. But don't you think that's kind of strange? Why would the girls' locker room have a poster like that?
I bet those massive jugs of hers were totally fake!
Thank you. So now we have not only Hifumi as a speed bump to every conversation, but we now have the psychopathic Genocide Jill as a speed bump to every conversation.
Meanwhile, the boys' locker room had a poster of the super popular boy band Tornado. Again, that doesn't really seem to belong in a boy's locker room.
So you're saying that maybe the posters were switched?
And there's one other thing I noticed about the locker room.
It kind of feels like it might be Aoi that was the killer in this. She's been quiet quite a bit in this conversation.
You know what I'm talking
but I
about,
also kind of feel like
right,
there are
Sakura?
just some characters that are just idiots and just don't talk that much.
You're referring to my protein coffee, aren't you?
Protein coffee?
Yeah, I hope in the Japanese version of this, it still was the story of someone spilling protein coffee and making a stain, because a embarrassing, unexpected moment of diarrhea after working out would be really gross and frankly not unheard of in working out. Yeah, it's not crazy for people to overexert themselves when working out and push it way too far.
While I was in the girls' locker room earlier, I spilled some protein coffee on the carpet. But I noticed that after the murder, the stain had been totally scrubbed away.
Never even heard of protein coffee, but I can almost guarantee you in Japan they do have something sold as protein coffee. No, it's not the stain was scrubbed away. It was moved. So then we need the boys' locker room carpet.
I got it! The stain on the girls' locker room carpet wasn't scrubbed away.
It would really suck if it is your timer is just constantly going down and you get like right at that final puzzle and you just don't have enough time to solve it and you get a game over at that point, because then you'd have to potentially play this entire class trial a second time. And particularly if there's a stumbling block in the middle of the game that you just can't get past, that'd also be very frustrating.
In fact, I found it on the boys' locker room carpet.
So rolling up a carpet or rolling up a body in the carpet and then unrolling it and putting the exercise equipment back on it.
That's definitely the stain from my protein coffee.
They once again are still making it seem like you took pictures of these, or you, every time you think of something as a truth bullet, everybody else can see it.
Then, does that mean that the carpets were switched too? But why would anyone do that?
To move the murder scene from one locker room to the other. It's certainly plausible, don't you think? What? In other words, in order to completely swap the scene of the crime, the bloodstained poster and carpet were moved along with the dead body. By doing this, the killer was able to change the entire room where the murder took place.
I can certainly follow your reasoning, but why would the culprit bother doing that?
That is an interesting question.
Huh?
Why would they go through all that trouble of switching the scene of the crime? Actually, an even bigger question. If the murder did take place in the boys' locker room, then how did Chihiro get in the boys' locker room in the first place?
Interesting question.
To get into the locker rooms, you have to swipe your e-handbook across the card reader device. But Chihiro's handbook should have only allowed her access to the girls' locker room. She had no way to get into the boys' locker room to begin with.
No, she did have a way, and I can tell you what it was.
Interesting. Chihiro figured this out.
I highly doubt that.
Shut up! I'm telling you, I know how she could have done it.
Is he right? Could Chihiro really have gotten into the boys' locker room somehow? Well, we know you can use like Leon's broken e-handbook. This is the bullet I guess we're gonna use.
Is it really possible? Could Chihiro really have gotten into the boys' locker room somehow?
I got it! She
No,
must
I
have
guess-
hacked her e-handbook.
Nope. I was wrong there. I guess it is different amounts of time for different puzzles, so that does reset you. So you don't
Is it really possible?
won't just mess up completely.
Could Chihiro really have gotten into the boys' locker room somehow?
Chihiro was the ultimate programmer.
She must have hacked her e-handbook. She was the ultimate programmer, after all.
Hmm.
I'm sure that would have been no problem for her.
No, I don't think that's it.
Hmm.
She used the thing that was in the main hall.
So he's talking about the broken handbook.
I'm talking about Leon's handbook, of course.
And that's a contradiction because that was broken. But we don't know when it was broken.
No, I don't think Chihiro used Leon's handbook.
So we're contradicting the thing that would have even explained the argument we were making earlier. So we really are seeking the truth no matter what in this case.
Because Leon's handbook was broken.
We're 2 hours into this. Do we want to see if we can finish this?
Oh. Well, then, yeah, I guess that'd be pretty impossible, huh?
Or do we want to stop here?
I am struck silent by how quickly
Oops.
you gave up.
Went into auto mode. I guess I could have been going into auto mode this whole time.
Isn't there a regulation against using someone else's handbook?
Actually, the rule states that loaning your handbook is prohibited. It says nothing about borrowing one.
Yeah, we can't save at the moment. Or apparently we can save at the moment. I'm surprised we can. Geez, it kind of feels like you should have been save scumming this whole time, if that was the option. Alright, so I think we'll just leave it here since it's been 2 hours. That allows us in the next episode to have a little bit more action around this classroom trial before we get back into more falling action at the end of at the beginning of chapter 3 and have free time. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.